Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Glycine Combat Sub reference GL1012. This watch is available from Tandem Watch Group BV on Amazon.de for €315 including shipping. The watch is also available direct from Glycine's website for 745 Swiss francs. So of course it makes sense to purchase the watch from Tandem Watch Group BV on Amazon.de because it's significantly less expensive at €315 versus 745 Swiss francs. Tandem Watch Group BV are an authorised dealer of Glycine watches in the Netherlands, and if buying from Amazon, it's covered by the usual Amazon 30-day return policy, in addition to a 2-year international warranty. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with a piece. The watch comes in a watch box which is protected by this black cardboard outer box, and as you can see on the lid to the box it has the Glycine crown, Glycine logo, and since 1914. And that is indeed true. Glycine Watches was founded in Switzerland in 1914. And they are famous for making two iconic pieces, the Glycine Airman and the Glycine Combat respectively, which were both made in 1967. So they've made the Combat since 1967 to the present day, and the Combat Sub is the latest iteration of it. Now, Glycine was then acquired in 2016 by Invicta, and purist Glycine collectors were concerned about the Invicta acquisition because they were worried that Glycine watches' quality control and build quality would decline under Invicta ownership. However, I'm pleased to report that hasn't been the case. From 2016 to the present day, Glycine are still making quality watches. Their build quality and quality control hasn't declined. Personally, I think it's been a positive because Invicta's ownership has meant investment into the Glycine brand, and that has expanded their collection of watches available. So the watch box has a hinged lid, as you can see. Interior is fully upholstered with a grey contrasting vinyl plastic, and the watch sits in the base on a padded pillow cushion which is also vinyl coated to a good standard. So good presentation, and immediately one gets the impression that this is a high quality Swiss made piece. The Combat Sub is made in Bienne in Switzerland. With regards to other items, one gets this embroidered fabric Glycine tag, and as you can see it says remove before flight. This obviously relates to the Glycine Airman, which is their military issued pilot's watch. So nice to get that included. This is the plastic tag that comes with the watch. This is the plastic guarantee card, and I'm pleased to report the watch is covered by a 2-year international warranty. As you can see, it's filled in by Tandem Watch Group with the reference number of the piece, date of purchase, stamps, and also the case number. Every Glycine Combat Sub is engraved in the case back with a unique serial number which matches the warranty card, and that activates the 2-year international warranty. One also gets 2 owner's instruction manuals because the Combat Sub 42mm is made in automatic and quartz. So this is the owner's manual for the automatic, and it also comes with an owner's manual specifically for the quartz. This is powered by the Ronda 715 quartz, which is Swiss made. Clear, concise diagrams, the instructions are in English, and it's a very good read. Lastly, one also gets this Glycine branded microfiber polishing cloth. I always think it's a nice touch to get a branded microfiber polishing cloth irrespective of the price point of the piece. So with regards to the Glycine Combat Sub, this is the reference GL1012, which is the quartz version. It's a new model for 2022. A feature of the Combat Sub 42mm quartz versions in 2022 is Glycine has produced them all with two-tone bezels. So this has a black top and grey lower portion to the bezel. They also make, for example, a Pepsi version with a red and blue bezel. Now, the 42mm versions are available in automatic and quartz, but the 39 and the 36 versions are available in automatic only. So that's something to note. With regards to dimensions, we have a 42mm case diameter. We have a 50.2mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 11mm, and a lug width of 22mm. The oyster-style bracelet tapers from 22mm at the lugs down to 20mm at the 2-button push flip-lock clasp, and as you can see the clasp is signed to a high standard with the Glycine crown and Glycine logo engraved. And beautiful lustre to the 316L grade stainless steel brush satin finishing to the top side and underside. The flanks are polished to a flawless mirror standard. Now, as always, I'm going to be critical of the clasp only having 3 micro adjustment holes. I would like to see a heavier gauge of 316L grade stainless steel used. I'd also like to see a longer clasp with 4 micro adjustment holes, or alternatively a ratcheting mechanism such as a glide lock style clasp. But on a positive note, they have made the correct decision by including 2 half links before and after the clasp, as you can see. And this is something that often brands don't have. They only have full links in oyster style bracelets, but Glycine have made the correct decision by putting 2 links either side of the clasp, so one can remove a half link to get the perfect fit if the 3 micro adjustments aren't enough. Now, this comes with a very long bracelet. It will fit up to an 8.5 inch wrist. I've removed 1 full link from the 6 o'clock side, and I've also moved the micro adjustment from position 3 to position 1 to tighten it up, and this now fits my 8 inch wrist as I like, with a nice loose fit. Now, the bracelet uses push pins, which is a cost-cutting measure. At €315, I would prefer to see 1.6mm screw pins used, but however, this is subjective. For the majority of collectors, they won't mind push pins, as per Seiko. The push pins are very easy to resize using a pin and hammer, and one can get the perfect fit due to the half links. In the centre links, they have sleeves, which are like bushes, and the advantage of having sleeves is it means the push pins are a very snug fit. They're very tight when going through the centre links. And this is something that other brands don't do, and I want to give due credit to Glycine for this, because by using the sleeves, the bushes, in the centre links, it means that it doesn't rattle, because the sleeves take up the slack in the screw pins in the centre link. So it's a very well engineered bracelet. The push pins are a very tight fit all the way through the 3 links, and it doesn't have that play, or it doesn't feel sloppy as per some oyster style bracelets using push pins rather than screw pins. So the sleeves work very well, and the pins are a very tight fit. They're a good interference fit in the outer links. So beautiful luster to the 316L grade stainless steel, and that complements the flawless mirror polishing to the flanks of the bracelet. The only thing I would like to change is the taper, 22 down to 20. Yes, a 22mm lug width does work very well with a 42mm head of the piece. For 40mm watches, I think 20 to 16 is perfection. For 42mm head of the pieces, I think 22 down to 18 is the perfect taper. 22 to 20 isn't quite enough, but it does add heft to the bracelet, and that means the bracelet does balance the large 42mm by 50.2mm head of the piece very well. So with regards to the crown, it's a solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, coin edge finished, mirror polished domed cap, signed with an embossed Glycine crown to a high standard. So let's test the screw down crown execution. Absolutely silky smooth. This is 10 out of 10. It feels very similar in terms of smoothness to my Tudor Black Bay 58, alternatively a Rolex triplock crown used on the Submariner date. That is the quality of this Glycine Combat Sub screw down crown. The internal thread of the stainless steel crown perfectly interfaces with the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube and provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters. So this is powered by the Ronda 715 quartz. Pulling it out to the first click position is the quick set complication. Now it does feel different, bearing in mind this is a quartz. It feels different to an automatic movement such as the NH35A, the PT5000 or the SW200-1 respectively. It doesn't have the loud audible click, and it doesn't have that sensation of heavy clicks to the quick set complication. The Ronda 715 feels lighter, so the date complication clicks over more smoothly without the heavy clicks, but I actually like the feeling of it. It does feel smoother than other quartz movements such as the Miyota 2115 used in the Casio Joro. The Ronda 715 is a Swiss-made quartz, and therefore it's higher grade, and it does feel very smooth. So an absolute pleasure to use the quickset complication. The 715 quartz has hacking. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement. If you look at the second hand, I've now stopped it dead. So it's possible to set the time precisely to the second. No resistance clockwise and anti-clockwise. It feels silky smooth. It does feel far smoother than the Miyota 2115 quartz. I really like the Ronda 715. The smoothness both clockwise and anti-clockwise feels silky smooth. No backplay clockwise and anti-clockwise. Immediate interface. When one rotates the crown clockwise or anti-clockwise, there's no backplay. The minute hand immediately responds. So I really like it. So I think the quality of the Ronda 715, which is gold plated, is very good. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. The second hand begins to tick around the dial once again. So let's test screwing the crown back down. Immediate thread pickup. This is outstanding screw down crown execution. No discernible difference between this and my Black Bay 58 screw down crown or a Rolex Submariner date. That is the level of quality. Glycine deserve full credit because this is the difference between a Swiss made piece and a Chinese made piece. The quality of the machining to the threads on the internal thread of the crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube is 10 out of 10. It doesn't feel gritty. It feels absolutely silky smooth, just like a Rolex twin lock or Rolex trip lock crown. That is the smoothness we're looking at with the Combat Sub. With regards to the rest of the specification, we have a flat sapphire crystal with blue tinted AR coating on the underside, 2.5 times magnification Cyclops magnifier, which also has blue tinted AR coating. When I tilt the piece at an oblique angle, you can see the blue hue of the AR coating. Personally, I would have preferred clear AR coating because this doesn't have a matte blue dial, it's matte grey, which is cement grey colour. And I think clear AR coating would work better with a matte grey dial, but however, this is subjective. Some collectors like seeing the blue tint or blue hue of AR coating, and it does work very well. The AR coating is very high grade, it does reduce the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished applied indices and silver mirror polished handset. Credit where credit's due. Glycine have been making the Combat series since 1967, so this isn't an homage to the Submariner date. And there are some aspects to it which are unique to the Glycine Combat Sub. The handset, as you can see, doesn't use a Mercedes hour hand. The circle is fully infilled with C3 superluminova, and also the bezel is slightly different. It doesn't have a scalloped bezel as per the Submariner date. It has a low profile coin edge bezel, which is solid 316L grade stainless steel with a nice undercut. Very low profile. This is actually lower profile than the coin edge bezel on my Black Bay 58, and it's a characteristic of all Combat Subs, the 36, 39 and 42. They all have very low profile coin edge bezels. Also has a nub, and the nub projects at 12 o'clock, both on the edge and also the top. So the nub provides some protection to the Lume pip, which is recessed into the aluminium bezel insert, and also means one can feel where the 12 o'clock position is. It feels tactile. The index finger can locate the 12 o'clock pip by sensation. One can feel the nub projecting out of the side. So it's a unique characteristic of the Combat Sub, the coin edge bezel, rather than using a gear tooth profile or scalloped bezel. And I really like it. The aluminium bezel insert isn't as hard as scratch resistant as using ceramic or sapphire, and one could consider that to be a negative, but however, I like aluminium bezel inserts because they give the piece a vintage aesthetic. I like the silver metallic tone to the minute ticks and also the Arabic numerals. It's a feature of the 2022 Combat Subs in 42mm that the quartz versions all have two-tone bezels. So for example, they make this with a Pepsi bezel with a blue and red bezel. This one has black and grey. I would personally prefer if they'd made the bezel entirely grey. I think that would have complemented the cement grey matte dial. But however, it does add interest to it. It's something different. I haven't seen a black and grey bezel used on a watch before, other than the Seiko 5KX GMT, but of course that bezel isn't made from aluminium. So I really like this. I think that it adds interest to it, and the handset isn't Mercedes handset, so the symmetry of the dial is very good. The proportions of the applied indices are very good. The mirror polishing is very well executed, and the mirror polishing to the handset is also very high grade. I like the proportions of the hands. Often with Chinese watches, the handsets are undersized. But if you look at the minute hand, I'm just going to rotate it to show it to you better because it's underneath the Cyclops at the moment. If you look at the length of the minute hand, you can see the point of the minute hand extends fully to the white ticks on the chapter ring. And if you look at the second hand ticking around the dial, you can see the tip of the second hand also extends fully to the white minute ticks on the chapter ring. And this is something that often brands get wrong. The hands are too short and undersized. The hour hand also is very well proportioned, so the size of the handset is good, and it allows for several layers of C3 superluminova to be applied, a large area of lume plots. So proportion of the indices is good, symmetry of the dial is good, and I like the fact it's not over branded with unnecessary text or specification. We simply have the Glycine crown and Glycine logo, and then Combat Sub 20 ATM at 6 o'clock. Right, so with regards to the bezel, it may come as a surprise to you. It's a 60-click unidirectional bezel. Now, contemporary bezels have 120-click unidirectional bezels. Now, I'm just going to remove my glove because as it's low profile with an undercut, it's actually difficult to grip wearing a cotton glove. But with an index finger and thumb, it is easy to grip, as you can see. So it feels smooth in terms of it's tactile and grippy. It's not as sharp as a gear tooth bezel, alternatively scalloped bezel. The resistance is very tight, it's very firm on this. It feels similar to a Steinhardt Ocean 139. That's the kind of resistance. Now, I've previously owned the Ocean 139 and also the 42, and I found that the 39s consistently have a tighter bezel action. And this is the kind of resistance one is feeling with this Glycine Combat Sub. So it is good it has the nub at 12 o'clock, because one can use that for resistance to get purchase on it with one's index finger. And that makes it easier to turn the bezel because it is very tight. So needless to say, there is no lateral side-to-side play, no back play whatsoever. It is a very tight bezel action. Very similar to the Ocean 139, heavier than a Seiko Turtle or a Seiko 5KX you may be familiar with, and certainly tighter than a San Martin bezel execution such as the SN017G or the 019G, which again you might be familiar with. Heavier bezel execution. But I like these 60 clicks. They're loud, they're audible, and I like the sound of it. It does sound louder than 120 clicks. In terms of resistance and the sound of it, it feels and sounds very similar to my Black Bay 58 bezel and also a Tudor Pelagos, because they have 60 click bezels. It's got that kind of feeling to the heavy 60 clicks, and also sounds the same. So if you like loud bezels with audible clicks and you like the heavy sensation of large clicks, it really feels like a solid ratcheting mechanism. No lateral side-to-side play, no back play, and I like the sound and the feeling of it. So very satisfying to use. Does feel very similar to my Black Bay 58, and that's something I've got used to. So I actually now prefer 60 click bezels to 120 click. Previously I preferred 120 because they were smoother. And needless to say, perfect alignment. The Lume pip and triangle perfectly aligned with the 12 o'clock index and the white minute 6 on the chapter ring. So, difficult to operate wearing a cotton glove, but of course that isn't going to be a concern because you're not reviewing watches and you're not wearing cotton gloves when wearing it. With a bare hand, it's easy to operate with the index finger and thumb, although it does take some turning. It is very tight, so that's something to bear in mind. But I would rather have a bezel that's slightly tight than slightly too loose, because I dislike lateral side-to-side play, back play and poor alignments. This is 10 out of 10, although it is tight. Right, so let's do a Lume test and we'll see how the Lume performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge this up to the absolute peak. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, we have C3 superluminova on the Lume pip, on the aluminium bezel inserts, the applied indices and the handset. Now, I think they could improve upon the quality of the C3 superluminova. The hands are clearly glowing brighter, so on the hands it clearly looks like 5 to 6 layers, which is good. But on the applied indices, I think they've applied less C3 superluminova. This looks like 2 to 3 layers, because if you look at the applied indices, they're fading faster than the handset. The handset is performing very well. The Lume pip is also performing well. But if you look at the dial, the applied indices are fading very fast, and that's disappointing. This is what 2 to 3 layers looks like. And I think they need to apply 5 to 6. The grade of C3 they're using on the hands and the Lume pip is good enough. I think it just needs 5 to 6 layers applied on the dial, because as you can see, now it's quickly fading to nothing. So I think the handset is good, but I think the dial superluminova is disappointing, and they really should improve it, because this is €315, and I think it's unacceptable to have this performance at this price point. Right, so let's discuss the movement used in this piece, because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. The Ronda 715 quartz is a reliable, well-proven workhorse quartz movement made in Switzerland. It's one of my personal favourites. There are two versions of the 715. The standard version, which is made from Swiss parts, only has one jewel, and it's nickel plated. This is the higher grade of 715, which has 5 jewels, and it's made from Swiss parts but also assembled in Switzerland. So there are two different grades effectively, the standard grade and a better quality grade. This is the higher grade of 715. Gold plated movements, 5-year battery life. And one thing I really like about the 715 is it has a 70% power saving function. So I'll explain how that operates. Ronda have made it so that if you're not using the watch, For example, if you're storing it in a watch box or as part of a collection, you can unscrew the crown, pull it out so it clicks and hacks the movement and stops the second hand dead. This now activates the 70% power saving function. It reduces the battery consumption by 70%, and that can extend the 5-year battery life to as much as 10 years. So that's a very useful thing to have. If you're not going to be wearing the piece daily, you can pull out the crown, hack the movement, activate the 70% power saving function and extend the battery life. But 5 years is very impressive. To put the 5-year battery life into perspective, a Miyota 2115 quartz, which is used in the Casio Duro, only has a 2-year battery life, and that's based upon you leaving the watch running continuously for 2 years. So it's a relatively power-hungry movement, but this has a 5-year battery life, which is very impressive, and of course you can extend it by using the 70% power-saving function. It also warns you when the battery is low, because usually the second hand ticks 1 tick per second, as you can see. And what happens is when the movement is low on battery power, the second hand jumps every 2 seconds. It doesn't tick every second, it ticks every 2 seconds. And when you see the second hand moving every 2 seconds rather than every 1 second, you know the battery needs changing, although it will continue to run while the battery is low. And I really like that aspect because one can tell when the battery needs to be changed before it fails and stops dead. The stated accuracy of the Ronda 715 is -10 to +20 seconds per month. That's not per day or per week, that is per month. I want you to consider that for a second. That is better than ±1 second per day accuracy. This one is running consistently at ±0 seconds per day. Perfect accuracy. That is the kind of accuracy one would expect with a high grade quartz movement such as used in the Grand Seiko, the 9F series of movements, the 9F82 and the 9F85 for example. That is the kind of accuracy we're looking at, ±0 seconds per day. To get -10 to +5 per month is incredible accuracy. So really there is no negative to the 715. It's reliable, well proven, good solid workhorse movement. Accuracy is 0 seconds per day, 5-year battery life, 70% power saving function. I like everything about it. It feels very good to operate, and it has a quick set complication, and also one can hack the movement to set the time precisely to the second. So it's one of my personal favourites Ronda calibers, the 715, providing it's the higher grade. I don't like the standard grade, which only has 1 jewel and is nickel plated, because that's made from Swiss parts, but it's not made in Switzerland. This one, the higher grade, is gold plated and it's 5 jewels rather than 1 jewel, and the quality is better. The build quality, the architecture of it, and also the quality control and the materials are all higher grade. Also like it's gold plated rather than being nickel plated as a cost cutting measure. So the 715 is the correct choice for this Glycine Combat Sub, and I think it's a credible alternative to the automatic. Glycine previously used the ETA 2824-2, they're now using the SW200-1 in their automatic versions, in the 36, the 39 and the 42. I would argue that this is a better proposition because the quartz version of the Combat Sub is significantly less expensive at €315. And I think the Ronda 715 is as good as an SW200-1, and it's more accurate. So this is a practical piece if you want to wear it in rotation with other watches, because you don't need to manually wind it, you don't need to put it on an automatic watch winder, you don't need to wear it 8 to 12 hours per day to automatically wind it. That's the benefit of wearing a quartz. The 5-year battery life means that you could wear this for 5 years without having to change the battery, and it will always be -10 to +20 per month, which in reality is ±0 seconds per day. So outstanding movement. Now I'll show you the case back. Solid 316L grade stainless steel case back, provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters, beautifully engraved with a Glycine Combat Sub emblem. And then we have mirror polished circumference, nice milled slots, no sharp edges, no burrs, very low profile. Now the benefit of the 715 is it's only 2.5 millimeters thick. That means Glycine were able to get the thickness of this Combat Sub quartz version down to only 11 millimeters thick. If this were automatic, one would expect it to be 12 or 13. It's only 11, very flat case back, and it sits very close to the wrist, and so therefore one really gets the benefit of the curved undercut to the flanks to the case. With regards to the finishing, flawless brush satin finishing to the tops of the lugs, and flawless mirror polishing to the flanks. As you can see, very low profile flanks. Quality of the finishing to the coin edge bezel, the head of the piece, and also the bracelet is outstanding. The female pivoted end links also give an excellent fit. So, comfortable piece to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. And I really like the quality, control, the build quality, the finishing, and the materials. It's outstanding. The only real negative to it is the 2 to 3 layers of the C3 Super Lume Nova on the dial. I think they need to improve and apply 5 to 6 on the dial to match the 5 to 6 layers used on the handset. So there is room for improvement on the Lume. The blue tinted AR coating is good, and the rest of the watch is very good. Right, so lastly I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So as I've detailed, there are 2 price points for this watch. If you buy this watch direct from Glycine's website, it's 745 Swiss francs, which is overpriced, it's too expensive. If you buy the watch from Tandem Watch Group BV on Amazon.de, it's €315, including shipping, which is significantly less than 745 Swiss francs. So I'm going to base my valuation on the €315 price point. Yes, I consider it to be excellent quality, and yes, I consider it to be excellent value at €315. One is getting a Swiss-made piece with a quality Swiss-made Ronda 715 quartz movement. The quality control, builds quality materials are all outstanding. There is only one negative to the watch, and that is the quality of the C3 Super Lume Nova on the dial, but on the Lume pip and the handset it is good. The rest of the specification is very strong. -10 to +20 seconds per month, blue tinted AR coating, 200 meters, and the quality of the finishing throughout is outstanding. Feel good factor is good, comfort level is good. So I'm going to declare it a champagne watch for lemonade money. I like this watch so much, in fact, I have decided to add it to my own personal collection, and that really is the highest compliment I can pay a watch. I hope you've enjoyed my review of the Glycine Combat Sub, reference GL1012. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.